I broke my toe, and basically we wanted to try and keep it quiet because I was getting injections, one before the game, one at half time, and ultimately after the game he'd just be in agony. I couldn't walk. But as I said, I'm not sure if it was in the league or it was the cup. Kevin was manager of City. We had a really good team, and it had getting out that I was playing with a broken toe, and it was on my left foot, and surely, obviously, Al's heard about it, and bless him, he's not the sharpest tool in the box. Very, very quickly, Newcastle had a throw in, so Al's backing up against me, and he knows it's my left foot, but I can actually see him when he's backing up against me, looking to think, well, what's his left foot, which one's his left? You can see him going, well, that's my right, that's my left, but he's behind me, so does that mean it's opposite? Anyway, he's worked it out, and he's tried to stand on my foot, and I've pulled my foot away and I've whacked him on the back of the head. And I went, fucking no need for that. I said, but I tell you what, if that's where you want to play it, I said, fair enough. I think Shea was in goal for Newcastle, and Shea, whilst he was a brilliant goalkeeper, probably not the best kicker in the world, and I knew roughly whereabouts it would be, so, and Al obviously knew whereabouts it would land, and Shea's balls, the strike of the ball was quite flat, which is ideal for like a centre half, and it was a great ball from centre forward as well, because if you stand to the side, you can come across and get your arm across the centre half and head it and stuff like that. This ball was perfect. So me and Al's jumped up, and I've come right across, I've headed it, but I've caught him in absolute beaut and broke his nose, or busted his nose definitely, and there was blood pissing all over. And I've gone across, and I've gone, see, that's what you get. So you try to stamp on me, says I'll get you. And to be fair to Al, he was like, nah, fair enough. Anyway, we got beat 1-0, that twat scored as well, didn't he? And I was in that, we shook hands, well done, great game. Obviously I'm good at that with getting beat and staying up, because obviously I'm going to stay up at home that I've got up here. And I'm just talking away to my dad in the lounge, and all of a sudden I had the most excruciating pain ever. What he'd done was, because he couldn't kick me on the pitch, he snuck in the lounge, he started more or less crawling around people, hiding, and then just as he was about to get to me and got to me, he still didn't stand up, crouching down, he just went off and stamped right on my foot, and I've gone, ah, in the lounge, and everybody's turning around, and he stood up and went, told you to get your back, you man bastard. But that was him. He just didn't want anybody to get the better of him.
Brilliant stuff. A lot of people want to know, what did Terry McDermott actually do in Newcastle?
Fuck all, basically. Terry was brilliant. I mean, the boys absolutely loved him. He was what you call a buffer. So Terry used to hear the stories about if the lads went out and stuff like that. It's amazing how many people are desperate to get in contact with the club to sort of say, I've seen such and such out, I've seen him out, I've seen him out. 9 times out of 10, it was nonsense. Loads of times Terry had come to me and sort of say, I heard you were such and such last night. I was like, no. Sometimes he was right, because I was. But that was always like with all the lads. But he used to sort of say, if it was true, listen, man, I'll keep this away from the gaffer and stuff like that. But he was a brilliant go-between, even though Kevin was very approachable, he could do anything, but obviously he didn't want Kevin to hear everything that went on. But one of Terry's jobs was, obviously I spoke about the coach and stuff like that. When we got on the coach, there was no chefs or anything, it was basically sandwiches from Marks and Spencer's and some crisps. That was our food going down. The boys would be starving because we wouldn't stop anywhere. And one of his other jobs was he used to go around at given times, like kind of a 6-month period, and sort of say, right lads, who's changed your mobile number, who's changed the dress, and all this kind of thing, so everything's up to date. And there was one day he was doing it, and as I sort of said, I was playing for Newcastle, but I was still living in Sunderland. And my address was 66 Ski View, Silsworth, Sunderland, SR3 4PW. Now, if you listen to Terry Mack, he's got a clip. So he's going around a few of the boys have gone, boys, when Terry does yours, you've got to fucking let us in. You've got to tell us. Anyway, I've gone, Terry's coming in 5 minutes, he's going to be asking. So we went, Mike, Howey, any changes of address, phone number, anything like that? And I went, yeah. 66 Steve, you went, Steve Howey, 66 Steve, you said, oh, fucking hell, Steve Howey, you can't have piss out of my fucking list.
Playing for Newcastle in that period, you know, the entertainers, it's gone down in history. It's still, you know, amongst, you know, my generation is you know, the team that didn't win the league. Why do you think we didn't win the league?
I don't know, a little bit of luck, a little bit of naivety. You know, we wanted to go out. I mean, for instance, you look at the Liverpool game, you know, 3-3 there, you take the draw and come away. But obviously we're pressing forward and they get a late goal. But I you know, there was some changes made after the Liverpool game. Actually, when it was 3-3, I came off because I'd done my hamstring. So there was a change in defence. Lee Clark as well had been dropped because I think we brought in Bats. And then we wanted, it might have been Bats, but we definitely brought in Tino. And obviously the manager wanted to fit Tino in the team. Now Tino was great coming off the bench. And now all of a sudden Kevin wanted to play him. Now if he wanted to play him, he had to basically play him in Peter's position. And he kind of dropped Peter. So he drops Keith Gillespie. So I think Lee Clark's out of the team, I'm out of the team, and Keith's out of the team because Peter's playing on the right. So the dynamics of the team's completely changed. You know, I think Bez always brings it up. He stopped us going out. He didn't want us going out anymore. He didn't want us speaking to the press. He'd just kind of gone all insecure and like insular, really. And it was weird because, as I sort of said, he was sort of like, you don't speak to the press, you don't go out. And then we played down at Leeds and we won 1-0. Keith had scored. And we're sitting on the bus and we've got Sky and it's crap signal, but we've still got it. And the live interview went across and it was the gaffer. And we're just like, kind of, what the fuck? Because, as I said, it was like, I would love it if we beat them, love it. But the weird thing is, the boys absolutely loved it because that was Kevin. You know, he wore his heart on his sleeve, and the boys and the fans got it. You can't imagine Sir Alex actually being at home thinking, kind of got you. Yeah, it's gone a little bit. And ultimately, we played Forest. We lost to Forest, and obviously there was Blackburn, I think, as well, and 1 or 2 other results. And Man United were just winning 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. I mean, I played with Peter Schmeichel after all this, me and him played together at Man City. And when Peter had first signed, there was just me and him left in the dressing room after training. Pete's on the far side, and he was looking, and I went, I'm not fucking talking about it. He went, come on, let's talk about it, let's talk about it. And I said, what do you want to know? I said, we pissed all over you. I said, we should have beat you. The result should have been more than it was the year after.
Yeah.
But Peter sort of said, he said, do you know what, we were in the dressing room afterwards and we were just like, he says, there was silence. He says, they'd expect us to be cheering and everything. He says, there was silence. He said, because we were just looking at each other going, how the fuck are we getting away with that? He said, that was the only team, you were the only team that absolutely, completely embarrassed us. He says, but it was just one of them games where, he said, if I'm being honest, Steve, he said, if you'd have played till 11 o'clock at night, you wouldn't have scored. He says, because I was obviously making myself big. He says, but everything was hitless. He says, even if I wanted to get out the way, it would hit us. He said, it was just ridiculous. He said, we were stunned. And he says, but we knew then, after that win, we were going to go on and get them results. And as I said, you'd seen him. Schmeichel would be pulling off absolute worldies, and they would get a last-minute goal, Scholes or Giggs or Cantona or something like that. And you're like, and then we have to play on the Monday. And it kind of, as I said, the dynamics of the team had changed. Kevin had changed a little bit. And of course, it was just like, he's the circus coming into town. We'd come into these places, the ground would be absolutely packed. There's millions watching at home. And ultimately, they had the experience just to battle through and get the points when they were needed. I mean, obviously, defensively, we got criticised because we sort of say we were weak and we conceded too many goals. We actually conceded less goals than Manchester United that season.
Yeah, you need to remember that 100%. Keegan's departure, big shock for you personally?
Yes and no, because Kevin, we'd always heard rumours at different times, like kind of it had come out that he'd gone upstairs and he's done me out and he was away, but he'd come back 11th hour type stuff. So whether it was Kevin going in to see Sir John and Freddie and asking for more money and then sort of saying, I can't give you any more. And Kevin sort of just not being right with things. There was 99% of times when we used to go training, or every day really, you could notice he's either in a good mood or he's in a bad mood. If he's in a good mood, he comes jogging out and he's full of beans and laughing and chatting on. And other times you look at him and you're thinking, fucking keep away from him today because he's just not on one. But it didn't really surprise us because he's obviously gone to the fountain like too many times, and obviously the owners have just gone, I can't help you out this time. But you know, that was Kevin. As I said, I had him at Man City as well. He was a little bit different at Man City because he'd been burnt and really hurt with the England setup. But it was weird because what we had at City was kind of similar really to what had happened in Newcastle. He'd come in, when I went there, City had just been promoted in the Premier League. We got relegated the very next season, that same season, under Joe Royle. Then Kevin came in and he brought in players that the Man City fans haven't seen for a long time. Yesterday, they had a player of years ago called George Kinkladze, who was a brilliant player. But then we had Sean Wright-Phillips, we had Ali Benarbia, Al Berkovic, Darren Huckabee, Nicholas Anelka, me, Dunny, Sylvan Distan. We had an unbelievable team and we were just battering teams. And he, of course, you know, Ken's like he's bouncing around and full of happy. But as soon as things got a little bit tough, the game, he left.
Looking at the other managers that you played for at Newcastle, I mean, Kenny Dalglish, the fans groan when they hear his name, but the players always seem to really like Kenny. Was he just going to be always, whoever took that job after Kevin was always going to be in an impossible position?
It was, but it was Kenny. I mean, he was a wonderful player. But you're right, the boys absolutely loved him. He always looked after the lads. He was very difficult to interview. If you looked at his interviews, he wouldn't give anything away. He was always for the players. He wouldn't sell anybody down the road. And we used to laugh because he'd get asked a question and he used to answer it with a question. And he, as I said, fans obviously looking at it if the team wasn't doing very well, and his demeanour on the TV probably didn't show what he was really like, because what he was really like was lovely, really good coach, really good manager. And people forget as well, we had a team where for a good chunk of his time he'd lost out because I was injured. He'd done his knee, so we had, you know, we struggled up front when we had, I think, Andreas Anderson and people like that, where it was quite difficult. But yeah, 100% the boys absolutely love him. I still see Kenny now and again. Lovely man, really good man.
And he got us to a cup final, of course.
He did, yeah. I mean, him and Rude. But I was lucky because I got on with all the managers. I got on really well with Rude. I know, obviously, Al fell out with Rude and Rob Lee, because obviously Al was captain and Rob, like, the two of them were captain. And I'd just come back. I'd been out a long time, spent ages at Lillishore on a rehab, and we played Wimbledon at home. And there was hell on in the dressing room beforehand because we knew that Al was like out, and then he'd asked Rob Lee to take over the armband, and Rob said no, and like, obviously because of Al. I didn't know, I just knew there was something going on, but he just pulled me in, Rude, and just sort of said, listen, Al's not well. Rob Lee said he's got a slight knock. You know, do you want the captain's armband? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. As it transpired, as I said, I didn't realise that Robert turned it down and stuff like that. But again, if I'm being brutally honest, if you get offered the opportunity to represent any club, particularly Newcastle United, you don't turn that down, because that is an unbelievable honour.
You mentioned Ruud Gullit, sexy football. I mean, you know, what was he like on the training ground? I mean, it's funny, I did a talk in last night with Nobby Solano, and he surprised me. He said Kenny Dalglish wasn't there a great deal. He said he felt that Ruud was probably there a bit more than Kenny was.
But Ruud fell into the same category of Glenn Hoddle, because I had Glenn at England. And he used to get so frustrated because it was weird, because I was working for BBC Newcastle yesterday and we had Nick Ostavidas on. Nick, I love Nick. Not the best football player, good defender, great in the air, would always compete. But he would sort of say it to Nick, this is all I want you to do. He would say it to somebody, throw me the ball, and he would chest it, and he would volley it on the side, and it would go, and it would land 50 yards away onto somebody's chest, and he'd go, now you do it, to Nick Ostavidas. And Nikos would chest it and fucking boot it in the air. And he would go, this is shit. This is shit. We're supposed to be playing sexy football. He was asking the wrong players to do. Nick was good at what he did, and he used to just get frustrated to actually sort of why players are not as good as him. Glenn Hoddle was the same. He used to take great pleasure in taking the piss out of you because it's Glenn Hoddle. It's Rude Hullet.
Yeah.
But as I said, Rude had this like aloofness about him that people just didn't get. As I said, I got on with him all right because. He lied to me though in the end because I'd the shit that was going on with him and I'd had enough. Kenny had been sacked, and anyway, Kenny rang me up. I was living in Durham at the time. Kenny rang me up and he said, because when Kenny was manager, I asked to leave. I said I've had enough. I want to go. I felt as though I've been here too long. I felt as though I was kind of stagnating a little bit. I feel as though you're not getting appreciated. So I just sort of said, I pulled Terry Mack and I said, listen, I need to sit down with you and the gaffer. I told them, and Kenny said, just hold on a second, just bear with me. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, Kenny got sacked. And then a couple of weeks later, obviously after Rude had come in and all this stuff, Kenny rang me up and he says, are you still wanting to move? And I went, yeah. He said, I'll set up a meeting with you and Gerard Houllier. And Gerard Houllier was the manager of Liverpool. So I met Gerard Houllier and Robinson, who was the chief exec. We met in Leeds. I agreed a 4-year contract, money, not a problem. I was driving back. I spoke to my dad and I said, I've agreed everything with Liverpool. I said, I haven't signed anything, but it's all done. My agent, and I never had an agent, I didn't bother because ultimately, if I'm going to tell the manager something, I'll tell the manager something. I don't need me to tell him and then tell him. And why pay him to do it? I can do it myself, I'm a grown man. But at that particular time, because it was coming nitty-gritty with contracts, I did hire somebody, and he was called Phil Smith from a company called First Artist, who were based in London. Everybody was with Paul Stretford, so I went with them because I just felt Stretz had too many. As it happened, Phil Smith and John, they were my agent, but they were Rude's agent as well. So I'm driving back, and I've already spoke to my mum and dad. Listen, I'm going down in 4 days' time, it's all getting done. And, within a week I'll be a Liverpool player. My phone goes, it comes up, gaffer, hello? And he was just like, listen, I know where you've been, I know what you've done. Whilst I'm not delighted about it, I can totally understand. Why don't you come in tomorrow, first thing, at the training ground, me and you'll sit down at 8 o'clock in the morning. I went, oh, okay, no problem. So I've gone in and he just sort of said, what's the problem? I said, I'm fucking fed up. I said, the issues with me and not feeling appreciated and all this kind of thing. I said, and sometimes you need a break, you need a clean cut just to move on with your career. And I said, I'm pissed off with the situation with you and Al. I said, it's just do me nothing. I says, the training's not very good. I says, because you keep on, I said, you're telling Duncan Ferguson it's all in his head. I says, it's not. I said, and you're running people into the ground all the time. I said, it just doesn't work for me. And he was like, well, what can I do to make things? So I sort of said this. And he went, it'll happen. I promise you, it'll happen. And I went, okay. He said, I know what Liverpool's offered you. He says, we'll match it, but we'll give you another year as well, and like a big sign-on fee. Would you stop? I said, the money's irrelevant, and it really is, because money didn't kind of motivate me, really. Because, as Kevin used to say, money will come if you're just if you're playing well. I said, yeah, just get it sorted. And he went, I promise you, you have my word. He says, but we need to get this sorted because obviously Liverpool will be banging on the door. And he says, and the chairman will probably think we can recoup a decent amount of money here. And he says, and I'll be putting under pressure. So I signed the contract, and he fucking didn't do anything about it, did he? I mean, obviously there was, and then it came out of the head when we played Sunderland, and he dropped out. And then Duncan wasn't playing either. I think he played Robbo up front, and we got beat 2-1. But I think the defining moment with that one was we were winning 1-0. I think Sunderland got 2 late goals. I'm sure Kev got one, and Quinny got another. I think after that game, if Newcastle had won, I think Al could have found himself gone, and Rude would have been a kind of, wow, we don't need Alan Shearer type thing, which is ridiculous to say. But at that particular point, that's how we all felt in the dressing room. That's what would happen. But as it transpired, they scored 2 late goals. It comes out about Rude Hullet because he was shagging one of the girls from Uno's, and that went in the papers, and of course he went, and then I'm stuck because I'm thinking, fucking hell. But then Sir Bobby came in, I thought, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and initially absolutely superb, and then Bobby pulled me in and just sort of said, listen, the chairman's not happy. He says, we've got you, Lauren Charvier, Marcelino, Alain Goma, David Das. He says, there's too many centre-halves. He said, we've offered all the centre-halves to other clubs and nobody wants them. He says, there's only one centre-half they want. He says, these are the teams, go and speak to them. He says, I don't want you to go. He says, so if you want to stay, happy days. He said, stay. He said, not an issue with me. But for him to, I understand why he was doing it, because he was letting me know. But really, I thought, well, if he wants me that much, he would have just shut them down straight away and went, no matter what's happening, he's stopping. But he came to me, and again, I was just like, well, I just might as well move on. So I signed for City, and I must admit, I absolutely love my time there. I think it's a fabulous club, lovely people, and had a great time there.
You were involved in 2 cup final runs. Do you, as a player, feel that pressure? And I guess it's a relevant question with the players now. We've seen a picture today doing the rounds on social media. Eddie Howe has a digital screen there now with 60. We have gone 67 years without winning a trophy. Apparently, he was putting it up on bits of paper when he first went in, and it's now transpired that this is hanging. You know, that is there now on a screen in the training facility. Did you feel the pressure as a player? The fans, the anticipation as you get to the quarter final, the semi final, and then ultimately the final. Does that contribute in a positive or a negative way for a player?
I think it's positive. I think it's what you play football for, to play big games, meaningful games, high profile games on the biggest stadiums, getting cheered on by thousands and thousands of fans. We know what the consequence is if you lose, but we know what the prize is if you win. And we were so close to that. I think we were unfortunate because the 2 times we did get to the final, we played one team that was ridiculous and won the double, and then another team that was even more ridiculous and won the treble. And as Nikos said last night, Nikos Davidas, we played the Arsenal team, and we were struggling that year as well. And we were playing against a team that had just pissed the Premier League. But yeah, you can sense the excitement about it, the build up to the FA Cup finals and stuff like that, and when we played in Europe and stuff. But that's what, as I said, these are the games you want to play in, because when I was a kid kicking the ball about, and you're watching Match of the Day and stuff like that, you dream of playing in games like this. So of course you look forward to them. Yes, you're nervous, but soon as the kick-off, when you go out and warm up and you feel the atmosphere and you check the pitch and stuff like that, and you're ready. The noise just before kick-off is ridiculous. The song as well when you're coming out is ridiculous. Makes the hasn't but neck stand on it. But as soon as they kick off and you take your first touch, you're in the game. You're comfortable. You're happy because you've worked hard to get there, and you know that I'm a good player, and I know them lads in front of us are good players. And if we play right, and if we play about capabilities, we'll win the game.
I'm going to finish off our little section before we come to you for your questions in the audience with just a story or two maybe about England. You pulled on the weight of England, but you played with a certain Mr. Paul Gascoigne.
Yeah. Well, one of the stories with Gazza was, it was a nightmare. We spent a lot of time before Euro 96 together, and he used to trash everybody's room. All you could hear in the corridors was, and you'd wonder, how's he getting into the room? Because I can see him. He's been with me all fucking day. And all you'd hear in the corridors was, Gascoigne! And you'd walk down, it could be Dave Seamans or Platties or something like that, and the room would be trashed. Your old mind, fucking bed was all out, your tablets, your kind of vitamin tablets, your toothpaste would be squirted out, your toothbrush would be in fucking bog, just all kinds of stuff. But he was absolutely brilliant. We just couldn't rest. But just a little thing about him was, just say when I moved to Man City, if I was playing Middlesbrough, Sunderland, or Newcastle, I would ask the physio or the kit man, can you drive my car up on a Friday? And then at least after the game on the Saturday, my car's at the ground, and then I can get in my car and I can go home. I can stay over for the weekend, see my mum and dad. my wife can see her family and stuff like that, and then we drive back down on a Sunday. Rob Lee used to do it if we were playing down in London. He used to get Ray Thompson or Derek Wright to drive the car down and stuff like that. Now, Gaz had done this every club that he went to. He'd ask the kit man or the physio, can you drive me car? And then what he would do is, when everybody was on the bus and he'd be sat on the bus, that person who's driving his car would set off. He'd ring the police up and tell them his car's been nicked. And he would tell them what direction they're heading in. On the A19, it's a blue XYZ. And so, of course, when the bus caught up, the coppers had already pulled over the poor bloody kit man, and he was over the bonnet, and the bus used to slow up, and he'd be banging on the window going, fucking not bad. But the England one, another one with Gaz was, after the Euro 96, obviously Terry Venables had left, Glenn had took over, and Glenn pulled me after after the session, and he asked me to go and see this woman called Eileen Drury. You remember Eileen Drury? Faith dealer. And I said, this is Gaffer, I said, I understand what you're trying to do. I said, but me and Alan Shearer, I said, we went to see one. And how we got to see one was, obviously Kevin was the manager. Kevin's wife, Jean, she was into this. And she was particularly into this woman called Betty Shine. Now, Jean had gotten into Kevin's head that, you know, we were two important players, we should give this a try, this faith healer. So the gaffer's gone to Derek Wright. Derek Wright thinks it's absolute bollocks because Derek's a science man and facts. So me and Al drive all the way down to God knows where. Alan Shearer's nickname, by the way, is Shocks. And it's Shocks is because, how did Blackburn get on the day? Oh, the 1-2-1, who scored? Shearer? Shock. So his nickname is Shocks. So we drive all the way down. Now, Betty Shine's biggest mistake she made was she kept the three of us, me, Derek, and Al, in the room at the same time. So I was first to go on the bed. So I'm on the bed, I've got a pair of slips on, and she's put her hands on my thigh. And she's going, right, Stephen, can you feel the heat? Can you feel the heat? And I'm thinking, well, I can feel the heat because your hands are warm. But basically, no. I mean, it ended up being a shit show. We ended up pissing ourselves laughing. She lost her rag, but she was just like, listen, it's probably not for you. So, me, Derek, and Al, I think we went out that night. Had a couple of drinks, because there's another story about that anyway, but I think it's on a podcast. So, I've been called up to the England squad again, and Glenn's asked me to go and see Eileen Drury, and I've said no. Anyway, this is Stephen. He says, I'm pleased that you're going to see Betty Shine. I've heard of Betty Shine. He says, I think Eileen could do something for you, but if you've been to see me closed off, it's not a problem. I don't hold it against you. Not a problem. I went, all right, never fucking pick me again, did he? Wanker. So, I'm down at Sky, and I'm doing some stuff for Sky, and I'm with Ray Parler. And Ray's going, what happened with you in England? I said, fucking Eileen Drury. He went, oh, mate. Fuck me. He went, please tell me not Eileen Drury. I went, Eileen Drury? I went, why? He went, do you not hear about me in Gaza with the World Cup in France when we were picking the squad? I went, no. Believe it or not, this is England's squad. Everybody that was in that 30 group had to go see and be a one-on-one with Eileen Drury, and Eileen Drury would say to Glenn Hoddle, he's a yes, he's a no. She was basically picking the squad. Right, it was fucking unbelievable. She had her own room, big hotel room, and Ray said, I went in, he says, there's one of these chairs. He says, and I sat down, he says, just for a laugh. He says, I've gone just a little trim off the back island. And he said, straight away, she's gone, get out. And he went, what? He went, I'm only having a bit of fun. She went, get out, you're not taken seriously. And he went, that was me. I walked out, and Glenn went, you're not in the squad. He says, Gaza walks in, and she's going, right, Paul, it's me and you. Come on, Paul, we've got to be sensible. He's going, Eileen, what's this about? What's this about? What's this about? Just settle down. Just settle down. It's just me and you. Shh. Shh. Anyway, he sat down, and she's gone behind him. And she's going, whoosh. Paul. Whoosh. Whoosh. She's gathering it up. She's walking across to the window. She's opened the window, and she's going, go. Go. Whoosh. Whoosh. Whoosh, gather them. Go, go. Gaz goes, I know what you're doing. She went, Paul, I'm getting rid of all the evil spirits, so it's just going to be me and you. She went, they're all gone. She went, right, Paul, let's concentrate. She put her hands on his shoulders and she's going, I should be coming through now, Paul. I should be coming through. And Gaz just fucking bursts out laughing. She's going, Paul, settle down. Come on, it's just me and you. It's just me and you. They've all gone. She's like, I know it's just me and you. You should be able to feel this now. Hands on the shoulders. Shh. Shh. Yes, Paul. I can feel it, Paul. Yes, Paul. And he bursts out laughing again. She goes, for goodness sake, Paul, what's the matter? What are you laughing for now? And he went, I'm sorry, Eileen, it's the evil spirits outside pulling funny faces. She went, get out, get out. Out the World Cup. So you remember he smashed up his room and everything, didn't he? Eileen, fucking Drury.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, that's our stories. Steve's story. Yeah, round of applause. That's honestly a fantastic recollection. We've got about 15 minutes left, so it's over to you. Anyone got any questions? Put your hands up and yes, mate. Straight to you at the back.
Can I be greedy and ask 2 questions?
Go for it.
One is on Sunday, if you had to pick one player from the entertainers, who would you bring to Newcastle? The other one is, what's your biggest regret?
Okay, so which player from the entertainers would play in the cup final?
Well, I was going to say, Peter Beardsley was the best player I ever played with, but I think at this moment what we need is goals. So I'd pick Al. And my biggest regret and the worst thing about being a footballer is injuries. I had 3 really bad injuries. I snapped my Achilles. One of them was in the semi-final against Tottenham at Old Trafford. So I missed the final. Believe it or not, this is how bad the club were. I got fitted for a suit. So I'm getting fitted for my suit. I got fitted for my suit. Because I couldn't play, they wanted my fucking suit back. And it was fitted for me. Remember George Taylor?
Oh yeah,
He used to do the George Taylor rang me up and went, the club want your suit back. Would tell the club to fuck off. It was a boss suit, it was decent. But they didn't even invite me down either. I played in every round, they didn't even invite me down, and I didn't get a medal off the call. But yeah, I had 3 really bad injuries. I'd snapped my Achilles, I had 5 double hernia operations, and I had a thing called compartment syndrome, and each one kept me out for a year. And a year without football is absolutely brutal. And then you've got the rehab on top of that, and then of course you get little hamstring injuries, calf strains, and thigh strains and stuff like that. So that's the worst bit. But the first part, definitely out. Who would you go for?
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
We're short of goals.
100%, yeah. Okay, anybody else with a question? Yes, we'll go with you at the back, Gareth. Yeah.
Steve, I don't know anything about Darren Peacock. You got any stories about him?
Any stories about Darren Peacock? That you can tell.
Not that I can tell. Peasy was great. I used to room with Peasy, the most laid-back man you've ever met. I mean, he basically walks, he walks like kind of backwards. He leans. I mean, actually, you know, right? When he walks, this is Peasy when he walks. Normal people just fucking walk like that, don't they? Peasy was like that. Fucking hell, Peasy, stand up straight, man. But he was a good lad. He loved his champagne. But good lad. I mean, obviously we signed him on the strength because when he was a QBR, we had calls up front, and he basically nullified him. But good lad. He married to a last bumblebee, Simone. She was a fucking nutter, by the way. But still together as well, which is brilliant. But yeah, good lad. Can't tell the stories though.
Have you still got your question, mate? Yeah, go on.
When you get out on the drink with the players and that, who was the tightest and who would like
Rob Lee. Greatest man in the world. His fucking hands were there. I'll get them, lads. He was always last. We used to go have a round. So there was 10 of us, 12 of us, 15 of us went out, and one of the boys would always be first, fucking me, or Nash or what, and Rob Lee used to always be last because he knew we would never come back from him, and he knew as well that after 8 or 9, people forgot. So people would just go out, get in the pub and go, who wants it? After like 9 beers or something.
Yeah.
So Rob used to have a free night out. He was a greedy cockney bastard.
Is he any better now?
No, easy fuck. She was just as bad. She was the richest man in the fucking world, and he will not buy a beer. Unbelievable. Twats, the two of them.
I love it. Okay, next question. Yes, Barry.
Steve, can I just say a huge thank you, because you guys coming through, even as a centre forward, was when I first started going on my own to watch the match, and just as a young kid standing there watching you guys, the crop that you talked about before was unbelievable. And you just, even though you were winning, just the passion and everything you put into it was what made us probably become more of a Newcastle fan than I've ever been before. The question, I remember first watching Watto do his overhead throw in.
Middlesbrough.
What was it like the first time you saw him do that in training? What did the players actually think he was doing?
Watto was a kind of a freak of nature, really, because he was so strong. He was 16, he kind of didn't look like a man, but he had the strength, and he still is. He's still ridiculously strong and agile. But when he brought it out in training, it didn't surprise us, to be quite honest. I can't remember who it was that sort of said, oh, you should try that in a game, but we just thought he'd never have the balls to do it. And I can remember, I think it was Middlesbrough, wasn't it, that he did it. But no, it didn't surprise me, because he just had that athleticism. A freak when it comes to strength. I mean, so strong. I think that the only person I've come close to, who actually, I have to be honest, is stronger than Watto, is Sol Campbell. Sol Campbell was just ridiculous. But Watto was, it didn't surprise me with Watto. I felt sorry for Watto as well, because he ended up being in a position where he was he played right back, he played centre half, he played midfield, he played front. Was kind of jack of all trades without being given the opportunity to master one. I think a prime example of his ability was we played Liverpool, I think, in the Cup, and he gets a ball, he does ever so well, and then I think he dinks it over, it might be James or something like that. I think we win 2-1 or 2-0. Very, very good player though.
Okay, next question. Yes, man.
Is there any player that you've actually hated before, like in the squad, that you thought, I really don't wish they get so he's absolutely bad?
Any player that you've hated? Not Rob Lee.
So what? No. I haven't come across. Hey?
Weird personality versus player, because sometimes, I've been in teams before, thought they're an absolute twat, but I want them in the team because they're great. Anyone that you thought, what, at any cost, get rid of them.
Do you know what? I've never had that. At Newcastle, we made sure that they weren't a dick. And because if they were, they would have gone. But lads actually bought into it. When I went to Man City, it was the same. Listen, lads have different outlooks. When I went to City, there was a few of us like the beer. Some of the lads didn't drink. Some of the lads didn't drink through religion or just chose not to drink. That's absolutely fine. You hear stories about Robbie Savage. Everybody thinks he's a knob. You see him on the pitch and stuff. Apparently, he's a really good lad. I didn't get on. I was a little bit concerned. There's a lad called Paul Dickoff. He was at Arsenal, played against him at Arsenal, centre forward. He is a pain in the arse. He was like a wasp. And I thought, I'm not too sure I'm going to get on with him. And me and Dickie were out the other week. We've been friends for years and years. But no, there's never been somebody, and that is weird because there's so many players that you come across. But the vast majority of players are just lads that's come from fuck-all like everybody else and done all right. So they're kind of grounded. It's very rare that somebody comes from money. Rob Lee actually did come from money. I think his dad was worth a few quid. But his dad's still got a few quid, and so has Rob. So as I said, not by a bastard player.
Any other questions? I'll come to you, yeah. I'll come to you next.
Who do you think, in the entertainers in that prime versus the current squad of Newcastle, who do you think would come out if they went to 10-10?
There's only one team for me. And I don't actually think one of them players will get in that team. I really don't. But that's me being biased. I'm pretty sure.
Bruno?
Well, Rob Lee? Is he going to say Rob Lee's place?
Maybe he's on the bench then, Bruno.
Yeah, I like Bruno. I really do. I think he's a fabulous player.
Trivia.
let's just see. Trivia, Warren Barton, Steve Watson, Bears, no. You know, so this is why football's great. I mean, you look at Botman, you look at Cher, me Philippe, or me and Peasy, or Peasy and Philippe, probably not. I think Pope's a brilliant goalkeeper, but Pav, Shea, Chaka, unbelievable players up front. Forget about it. You know, you've got Peter, you've got Les, you've got Al, you've got David. I think, me personally, I'd struggle. But I'm sure people will go, well, I definitely have it, and that's your opinion.
Peter Beardsley got asked the question last week and he said exactly the same. So yeah. It's not surprising. You still got your question?
Who was the best player you ever played against? Why was it that?
Best player you played against and why?
Played against lots of good players. You know, you Bergkamps, Vialis, Cantonars, Henry, Fowler. The list would just go on and on and on and on. Did not like playing against Zola. Zola was scary, really. He was quick. He was brave. He had a low sense of gravity. I mean, when I talk about the injuries, actually, it was a year to the day when I got injured, and then it was exactly a year we played Chelsea at St James's, and that's the way I had a mark. I was fucking devastated. I was in bed for 3 days afterwards. We won 1-0, but yeah, he was ridiculous. I'll tell you what I didn't like playing against as well, and he was actually played for us, was Alex Matthew. Because Alex Matthew was his first touch was that shit. You couldn't read him. So, I shit you not. But Alex was quick. He was quick. So you'd go to control it, and because his touch was wank, and it would go that way, he'd be on it in a flash, and he'd do you. And you'd be running after him going, you fucking spunky bastard. It'd be weird. But it was people like him. Owen was kind of the same. Owen was poor. He didn't have a great touch, but he was quick. I wish I had pace. Look, you buggers.
Next question. Yes, man.
It's not a question, but could you recount the story about Tino and the ball bouncing off him and his translator in the changing room?
Kevin Keegan. I can't do. The stories would stop like, I'm only getting fucking paid so much. How much you want to pay? I'll still be in my car fucking going, yeah. Fucking, I'm not here for your benefit, you know, you twat. Fuck's sake. Telling this story, I'm fucking off.
Probably stole your wheels, man.
Probably fucking Stowe Street, aye. Yeah, Tino, as I said, we were a really close-knit group and we didn't like anybody in the dressing room. We'd kind of be very wary of anybody coming in that we didn't quite know. Even players, we'd suss them out pretty quickly. Yeah, that's one of the boys. But we didn't have that problem with players. Obviously, in a changing room before the game, we were in the dressing room hours before the kick-off. And what tends to happen is people are let in to kind of, maybe with the kids, there's photographs getting taken with men and women and obviously the kids and signing autographs and stuff like that. But after a certain time, everybody goes, it's just us. We have to concentrate on the game. And when we'd signed Tino, there was a bloke in the dressing room who we didn't know. His name actually was Jimmy Wallace, and he was a lovely fella. But we were going to the gaffer, what the fuck? You know, why have we got somebody in here for? Tino is from Colombia, but they are Spanish speaking. You lived in Marbella for like 7 years. You know, why is it that we need an interpreter? And he was like, don't worry, boys, you know, just leave it with us. He says, I'm getting lessons, but just give us a couple of weeks. Weeks and weeks and weeks went by, and Jimmy's still there, Jimmy's still there, Jimmy's still there. Anyway, there was this one time we played Aston Villa away, and we were in the tunnel ready to come out again, doing all the stuff of, come on boys, fucking hell, we need this one, and then Philippe Titu, all that kind of stuff. And I think Bob Lees, I said something when, does anybody see the gaffer speak to Tino? No. What Kev used to do, and our managers used to do, especially when you're playing from home, is if you've had your pre-match meal and you're back in your room and you're just chilling out for a little bit, if your phone rings, don't pick it up because it's like, hello, gaffer wants to see you. You know for a fact you're getting binned. You're like, fucking hell. So we actually thought what Kevin had done was, because Tino was starting, he's got Tino to his room and he's had a conversation with him. Probably had it with Jimmy Wallace. But anyway, Jimmy Wallace wasn't there in the dressing room, so that's why we've asked the question. So we're winning 1-0, and we're coming up to like 98th, 99th minute, 99th minute, and Bez has got the ball. Now Tino, if you remember, Tino was such a special player, but sometimes he would try something and it wouldn't come off and we'd lose possession. Now, it's classed as if you're under the cosh. If you're under the cosh, i.e. it means when you're under pressure, you've got a release pass. And the release pass is to somebody like Al, because you know for a fact Al, 9 times out of 10, is going to protect it, get you a free kick, get you a throw in, keep possession, play another midfield player in. We can breathe and push up and just take a little breather. We've got a bit of possession. It was good up to Tino when he was flicking it and he was losing it and he was fucking doing our tits in. Whereas sometimes he would do something and you think, how on earth has he done that? Wonderful stuff. 89th minute, ball goes up to Tino, he tries a flick, doesn't come off. They have a bit of pressure, don't really cause us any major problems. But again, you can see Kevin on the bench and he's chewing a little bit because he's nudging Terry Mack, fucking hell, Terry, this, that, and other. Goes up to Tino again, loses possession. They have a shot on goal, comfortable save for the keeper. And then I think we're into proper injury time. And I've just clipped one up and it's gone up to him. He's just got to chest it, but I think he tries to chest it and turn. He loses possession, they've gone down. They actually end up hitting the crossbar, they nearly score. So Kevin's fucking bouncing. So Kevin's jumped out of the dugout area and he's going, Tino! When the fucking ball, yo, comes up, yo, no more fucking flicky, yo! Get a fucking hold of yo! Keith Gillespie, who'd been binned, he leaned forward and went, Gaffer, say them lessons, you're coming on a fucking tree. So fucking Keith was on the team for another 6 weeks.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the second half and the end of the show. Put your hands together for Steve Howey. Great stuff, great stuff. Good one to finish on as well. Okay, if you've got anything to get signed or you want to get a quick photo with Steve, now's the time to do it. So, formal order.